Hi guys, Louis Dangoor here from WrestleTalk.com and WrestleTalk Interviews, and I've got a special guest with me, and someone that doesn't tend to do a lot of sort of interviews or podcasts, so very honoured that he's agreed to come on here. So we got Jonathan Gresham here. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, thanks for having me, man.
No worries. Before we obviously get on to talking about your career and obviously some exciting things that might be happening in the future, Ring of Honor and things of that nature, how have you found sort of the last few months of craziness that have been going on in the world?
I try, to be honest, to stay disconnected from social media, from news, because I feel like, for me anyway, it influences my emotions a lot. So I can be moved to feel a certain way if I read something. So I try not to pay attention to too many things. But as far as how things have been for me since the shutdown, it was really rough at first because it's been 15 years I've been wrestling, and I have never really taken an extended break. Maybe like I had a weekend off or maybe 2 weekends off, but never 3-4 months off from wrestling. So it really took a toll on my mental health in the few months that we were like completely off. So I just realized how much wrestling was needed for me just to express myself and to feel, I don't know, like I'm progressing in life, I guess. So.
And but you obviously mentioned not having taken a long break at all, and this being your first one. I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise because obviously people's mental health have suffered and things of that nature. But do you think a break was perhaps needed for your body? Has it been almost a good thing where you wouldn't have decided I need a month or two off, but because you've got it, you've had the time to sort of rest your body, recuperate any sort of niggling knocks that were worrying you?
I think for most guys, they can say that, yes. For me, I think the style that I decided to adapt to and use and adopt as my own, I think it kind of like helped me save my body. I take pride in not taking a lot of bumps in matches, things of that nature, and keeping my opponents as well as myself safe. So I don't really have any nagging injuries, but I think it really helped me learn how to be Jonathan without wrestling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I learned a lot more about myself because I've been wrestling nonstop since I was 15 years old. So I didn't really get a chance to grow outside of professional wrestling.
And I guess also as well, because you're obviously in a relationship with Jordan Grace, who's also a wrestler. So it's your life. It's almost, you can't escape it because you're in a relationship with a wrestler, living with a wrestler. So have you enjoyed having this time off? And have you picked up any sort of like new hobbies to keep busy, or what have you been doing to stop yourself going stir crazy that I think the majority of people have been at one point, at least during this whole shutdown?
I think for me, I started thinking about, okay, I was so obsessed with professional wrestling from like an early age. And I was like, I think in many ways it saved my life because I was going into a really, negative direction early on in my life. And finding wrestling really helped me move into a positive direction. So now I started to think of it like that. And it's okay, I need to find something that I can like obsess myself with. And so I started to study more like languages. I started to study more like fitness stuff. And then I ended up finding that, I am really interested in like finance. So I started looking up stock market stuff. So right now I'm in the middle of like learning things of that nature. And it's something that I'm growing a passion for and that I really enjoy doing now. So that's one of the things that I think like for the most part is what I am more, for lack of a better way to say, obsessed with now. So that's taking up most of my time.
I guess that's good because when you do eventually retire, whenever that is, at least you've got some things to fall back on and keep you busy with. Because this is just, I guess, a sort of short retirement. It's going to give people a flavor of what it's like. And I think a lot of people like yourself are going to be thinking, I'm going to be in a tough place when I retire because wrestling's everything to me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because for a while there, I was convinced that wrestling wasn't coming back.
Wow.
I was pretty convinced because it was just like, how long can this last? Things looked so bad. But now I see like things are opening up like over in Japan now. So it is possible for us to still continue and move forward with the industry. So that brought a lot of light and hope back for me. But for a while there, I was in a bad place.
Yeah, I think you and everyone else, but obviously for wrestlers it's very hard because it's all you guys do on the road a lot. But a question that we got from social media when I asked was, can Jonathan Gresham describe himself in a sentence? So for people that aren't familiar with your work, just sort of watch the mainstream products and are checking this out, how would you describe what you do in a sentence, say?
I guess I would have to say I am an advocate for the original style of professional wrestling.
Okay. Sounds great. And obviously you spoke then about priding yourself on not taking a lot of bumps, quite like a technical wrestler. Do you think that you're a rarity, I guess, nowadays? And would you have liked to have been a wrestler 20, 30 years ago? Or do you think that standing out now and being one of the best at what you do and one of the only real sort of pure technical wrestlers is helping you and making you stand out?
I definitely don't think I would have been anywhere near what I am today if I was out 20 years ago or even before then. Mostly because of my size, and then I am a black guy in professional wrestling. So yeah, I think now is the best time for me. Yeah, I think me adapting this style and adopting this style really helped me. So I'm sorry, my fiance just keeps walking by doing weird stuff here. Sorry about that. But distracting me. But yeah, I don't think I think now is the best time for me to be a professional wrestler with this style. And it's not so much not taking bumps. It's just, for me, I realized that a long time ago that my style wouldn't really help me get popular quick like a lot of the easily digestible styles, which is like the high flying, lucha libre, jumping everywhere thing. So I had told myself the only way I'm going to move forward and make it is to survive. And to survive, I have to keep my body healthy. I can't take a lot of bumps and do a lot of crazy stuff because something that I learned through training with different people is strongest the longest. I feel like I've gotten to where I am because it was just like I survived longer than other people did, if that makes sense.
And so sort of young people that are coming through wrestling, do you try and pass that on to them? Because I guess a lot of we see now is crazy bumps, big flips, where you sort of think that was very close to his neck. Do you try and encourage other people not to make those mistakes, I guess, where they are potentially putting themselves at risk?
Oh, for sure. That's one of the biggest things I teach. And it's not to like look down on any other particular styles. It's just like, I feel that a lot of young wrestlers now feel that they have to perform the way that the most popular wrestlers are wrestling now. And that's a big reason why I'm a lot more vocal now on promoting technical wrestling, pure wrestling, because I feel like a lot of people don't really know what they want to do. And they do like this other style of wrestling, but they're looking at what everyone is getting popular doing. So they gravitate towards that because they feel like they have to do it to move forward. Promoters are only booking that. If you look at some of the best technical wrestlers around the world, outside of the ones that are very well known, like the Thatchers and Zack Sabre Juniors, like a lot of guys aren't getting opportunities. I think Fred Yahai is one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think Hot Sauce Tracy Williams is one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. Are they getting the opportunities to main event? No. And I wonder why. We know that answer, though.
Yeah. I mean, on the note of technical wrestlers, what do you think? Do you think we will see a day when promoters start really respecting technical wrestlers, and even not even promoters, but the mainstream companies do? Or do you think that we're only going to go more towards the sort of flippy style of wrestling and the fast-paced, high-octane, big move style of things?
Well, I think if we allow them to continue, then yes, I think we're going to have to start speaking up more and letting our voices be heard within our individual companies. Also, I think something that's been neglected and like ignored for a very long time, something that I was taught, is that a professional wrestling event is supposed to be a variety show. There's supposed to be a little bit of comedy, a little bit of like high flying, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But what I see now is so much of one genre of wrestling. And I think it's just unfair. A lot of guys don't even get opportunities to be on shows because they wrestle a particular way. So there's a huge demographic of people that enjoy other styles of wrestling, but they're being forced fed all of this one high octane, taking a whole bunch of bumps, you know, shortening your career style of wrestling. And it bothers me to see.
As you say, wrestling should be a variety show where you can go, and if you're a fan of technical wrestling, see 1 or 2 matches of that nature. But as you say, going to a show now, it's a lot of the same matches, albeit very good matches, but a lot of the same sort of thing. So I do agree with what you've said in that vein. But something you touched on earlier that I would like to bring up. Obviously, you mentioned being a wrestler 20 years ago, and obviously yourself being a black wrestler, it would have been considerably harder for you. And as a white person myself, I'm not going to pretend for a moment to understand what black people and black wrestlers like yourself have to go through in the industry. And I think not enough people do understand. So I would like to ask you about the challenges you face, if you obviously don't mind speaking about it, in professional wrestling, being a person of color.
To be honest, I've never really tried to see that. I always heard it. There's this thing that was always said when I was coming up, is that there's always like only 2 or 3 spots for black guys on the show. And I always heard that, but I didn't want to believe it. And growing up, I never really saw a lot of black wrestlers, to be honest, like on the shows that I was on. So when I started in 2005, I grew up in Atlanta, but there was a lot of like white guys wrestling at the time. I had a lot of black guys in the school of WWA4 with me, but a lot of them weren't ready to do shows yet. So when I started to do shows, all the guys that were on the shows were white. I just never saw black guys in the shows. I never really saw black guys that were like ready to be on shows until I started traveling. And so when I started doing like international stuff around 2008, I was in, you know, France, Germany, and England and Ireland most of the times. And most of the people there were white. You know, every now and again, maybe I would see like a Turkish guy or, you know, something like that. But for the most part, I was the only black guy on show. So it never really hit me. It was just like, I'm just the only one. You know, I don't see any other guys around. So it was never something that I wanted to believe in. I just thought, you know, that's something people say, it's a myth or whatever. But after, let me think, maybe 2011, I did my first Ring of Honor show. It was the Top Prospect tournament where I worked with Kyle O'Reilly. And after that match, I thought I presented myself as something different and that I might have some opportunity to move forward with the company. Because, of course, that was my utopia. That was my dream company to be a part of. And ultimately, I was told no. And so I thought to myself, okay, so I just need to make myself undeniable. What must I do now? So I said, okay, let me travel around the world and make a name for myself. So I looked at avenues to do that, and then I started to do that. And at this time, I still wasn't thinking about race. Everything that, you know, every door that I was told no, I always thought, okay, it's because I'm small. I can accept it. I can't change that. So after I made my rounds and I finally came back to America, and then I had my next chance at Ring of Honor, I realized that, okay, they can't really say no to me because I've done all this other stuff. I made a name for myself, you know, as one of the best people doing what I do. What is it now? What can you tell me? And I would never get an answer. And then I really started to pay more attention and accept the fact that race is an issue in wrestling. If you look at any form of entertainment, when you talk about movies and things of that nature, you don't really see a lot of main character black people. And it was really hard to really like sit back and digest that as being like real. It disappointed me. I looked at Ring of Honor, I looked at WWE, I looked at TNA, and I asked myself, how many main characters are black guys? And I look at all the black guys that have been really good over the years, that have been in. I'm going to speak more about Ring of Honor because that's where I came up and that's what I pay more attention to. But like I looked at all the black guys that came to that company, and then I look at how they were used. I look at Moose, I look at ACH, I look at Caprice Coleman, and it bothers me that these awesome athletes, to me, were never given the opportunity to be the big player. And I always wonder why. They have what it takes. They have the mic skills. They have the in-ring ability. Why? I think the reason for it is because nobody has really done it. So we have to change the narrative now where it's normal to see people of color in those main spots. And another way to probably help that, I think, is having people of color in like booking roles. If I look at companies all around the world, the main companies, how many people of color and women even are in these booking committees? They don't have any real representation. So for things to change, those things are going to have to be implemented. Sorry for being long-winded. That's just
no. Not at all, man. And on that nature, is that something you want to get involved in, where 20 years down the line, 15 years down the line, whenever it is, if you do it, when you eventually hang your boots up, do you want to be part of a booking committee where you're putting forward what you feel is a appropriate representation of people of color on shows, so people who come after you don't have to sort of face the same issues you did or be encountered with the same booking styles that you did?
When I became aware, like self-aware of all this stuff, and I realized like, okay, it's probably not going to change within my like career lifetime. So maybe I need to stop worrying about me. And that's when I decided to start moving more towards like a coaching role for multiple reasons, because I feel like me teaching a specific style that I believe is like literally dying right now. I don't want it. I don't want it to die. I feel like there's a large group of people around the world that still enjoy that style, and it's the original style of professional wrestling. So I want to pass that along. And also, yes, I want to help young people of color, but also I looked at like women haven't been getting a fair shot in a lot of companies. I mean, I think WWE's been doing a great job, but then when you look at the other companies, I really don't think, you know, they've been given a fair shot as well.
I think Impact
and that was,
has.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but you mean like recently?
Yeah.
In my mind, like in the beginning of TNA, well, not in the beginning, but TNA was like ahead of the curve by like how many years when they had the knockouts singles division, the knockouts women's tag division. They were pushing women at that time. Then they just dropped it. Yeah. You know, so like, I don't know. I think they're doing a really good job now, but you know, I think in a lot of places it could be better. And I want to help promote that and, you know, just help people move on with this genre of wrestling as well.
And I think what you've raised is an important point. And have you encountered, unfortunately, young black people in your coaching role who just think, I'm going to give this up because I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel? And what would you say to people who might be watching this as a black wrestler, or even any minority really, who feels that there's no way for them to progress? What advice would you give them as someone who's doing amazing work in wrestling as a black person?
We were always taught to be seen and not heard in wrestling. Just to be respectful to the people that came before us, and like a lot of us might interpret that a different way. I don't think it means to not speak up for yourself. For a long time, for me, I was never targeted, so I never felt like I needed to speak up. But maybe if I did, things for me would have went differently. So I encourage you to speak up if you feel that things aren't fair for you. Yeah. You can control the story of your match. You can control the way you are perceived to the fans. That is very important. You have control of that. And you might need to speak to your promoter or the booker or whatever, but you have control. You have a say in what you do and how you're perceived. So I just want to encourage young people of all races and women as well to like speak out on that. If you don't feel comfortable, don't be afraid to speak up. For me, earlier on, I was not afraid. I just didn't want to be problematic. And, you know, from now on, you know, once I became aware, I started to speak up. So just don't be afraid to speak up.
Is that an issue a lot of people face, where they perhaps bite their tongue because they don't want to be problematic?
For sure, yeah, because you don't want to give up the spot that you have, you know, because you worked so hard to get it. You know, for me, you know, all the spots that I ever got, like, I mean, professional wrestling, there's nothing tangible to say that I am qualified to do this. All you have is your resume, and that can be ran through the mud by just a bad conversation with the promoter. So of course, that's something that goes through people's minds.
And do you watch a lot of the sort of mainstream WWE product, or have you done?
I don't watch mainstream anything. I'm not against it. For me, it's just if I watch something regularly, subconsciously I become it.
Yeah.
So I focus my time on watching like the things that I think help me continue to be me, professional wrestler.
Well, what I was going to ask in that vein was obviously Mark Henry, Kofi Kingston, Booker T. We've seen black guys be champions in WWE. Not a lot, but we have seen. What's it like for you when you do, if you don't watch it, hear it, or see it on social media? Does it give you a bit of hope that there is chance for black people, perhaps, as you say, not in your lifetime, but in the next generation, I guess? Do you think there is going to be sort of hope for the next generation while we see? And I think now there was a stat that came out that 11 out of the 15 champions in WWE are from ethnic minority backgrounds.
I mean, yeah, I think that's good, but and I'm not speaking about any company in particular here, but I think when socially these conversations pop up, everyone are quick to like make sure that they're not looked at as, oh, they're not doing this. Why hasn't this happened? Right now, nobody can really be outed as like not supporting a certain cause right now because of what the roster of champions look like. My issue is 6 months from now, a year from now, is it going to be regular to see people of color in the main event title picture, in the main event storylines? You know what I mean? That's my question. You know, I think in some cases things are done just to wait until the arguments die down and then things go back to the norm, you know. But I want to see this regularly in companies across the board. I don't want anyone to be suppressed. I just want things to be fair for everyone across the board.
Yeah, and I think that, again, as I mentioned to you before we even did this interview, it was something I wanted to bring up because I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had. So thank you very much for obviously speaking about that. But something else I wanted to speak to you. So obviously the last few months has been summarized pretty much by the speaking out movement in wrestling, Black Lives Matter movement across the world, really, and obviously the coronavirus, which has hit a lot of wrestling companies by storm. And as someone with Ring of Honor now, how do you think the company has handled the pandemic? Because from my perspective as an outsider, they look like they've handled it very well.
I think they've handled it very well as well because nobody really knew what was going on. And a lot of companies were just concerned about continuing with the product. And, you know, while like professional wrestling is important to a lot of people, I think human life is more important. And I think Ring of Honor really took that into account to protect not only their staff, their fans, but as well as the wrestlers. You know, I am grateful that they are not asking us to go and wrestle. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of underlining stuff there that people could feel obligated to go and perform. You know, oh, I might not get my push, or I might lose my job, or, you know, there's several things that people could think. So I really appreciate the way they've been handling things. They're very professional. Really appreciate it.
And has there been any sort of timeline given over recently when you guys are intending to go back, or if not, when do you hope to be back? And is it as soon as possible?
Not really. I'm growing more comfortable myself to like take independent bookings. But as far as Ring of Honor, I don't want anything to happen to the company of Ring of Honor. So I prefer like upper management and the parent company to be comfortable for Ring of Honor to move forward with shows before like the boys they have any kind of say so in that. So as long as upper management and the parent company is okay, then I'll be okay. I'm at the point where I can still take independent dates if I want. So I'll just continue to do that if I get the itch to wrestle.
And obviously you spoke about this being something that the management obviously and the parent company should deal with, but I think there's been a lot spoken about a sort of a town hall meeting that Ring of Honor had where you guys were able to suggest ideas with how you wanted the company to go for. I know a few people have spoken about it. Joe Hendry spoke to me about it. Is there any sort of things you can share that you think were brought up that people should like to know about, or any nice ideas or things moving forward that you think is really exciting for Ring of Honor?
I don't think it's anything I feel comfortable with, you know, saying here, but trying to think. I don't think there's anything comfortable. I'm really interested to see personally, because I don't know, but I'm really interested to see like how we move forward with our champions, most of our champions being from different countries right now.
Yeah.
So if we do decide to move forward with shows, I'm just looking forward to see how we structure, title matches and things of that nature with our champions. I think our world champion and our television champions in Mexico. And I think they're going, and maybe our 6-man tag champs are also in Mexico. So I'm just really interested to see how we work that out.
And obviously, it's very exciting that shows are back. And if people want to check out Ring of Honor once shows do eventually return, what do you think sort of summarizes Ring of Honor? I asked you earlier to summarize yourself in a sentence. So summarize Ring of Honor in a sentence for those that aren't familiar with what you guys put out and the product that you guys put on.
I think we put on a very diverse event. We have people from all over the world, from England, from Canada, from Mexico. I think we have a very diverse roster. So, in a sentence, I think we are the best wrestling on the planet. There you go.
On that note, who are some of the best people in Ring of Honor, do you think? Who are some people within the promotion that you look at and think, damn, they're good? Is there anyone in particular that you sort of think, I'd like to get in the ring with them? Or if you have someone that you've been in the ring with that you think they were a different league?
I've been in the ring with a lot of guys. I think most of the Ring of Honor roster at this point. He's not a part of the roster right now, but of course I think the world of Alex Shelley. I think he influenced an entire generation of professional wrestlers, myself included. Jay Lethal, of course. More people from like my class, I think. Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. I've always been a fan of him, but me getting a chance to work with him before Ring of Honor on the independents, I realized just how good he was. More recently, I really think Bandito is very underrated. I think he's literally probably the best wrestler in the world right now. And that's my opinion. But I think he's like tremendous worker. He's just really, I can't express how good he is. He's really good. But someone else, Ring of Honor roster. Sorry, I can't think of everyone right now. But
that's all right. You probably haven't seen them in a long while.
Oh yeah, that's very true. But yeah, I think the people I named so far, like the ones that I really have, I really hold in high regard as far as in-ring performing.
And is there anyone in terms of psychology that now you've been at Ring of Honor, you've worked with, or you've just had the time to spend more time with, you've realized this person's a real sort of genius for the business or really knows what they're doing and what they're talking about?
I hate to bring up his name again, but Lethal is one of them. Every time I have a conversation with him pertaining to wrestling, I learn something, whether it's promos or in-ring. Silas Young is really good at too. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit. Yeah, right now, I'm sorry. Those are the two people that are coming to mind the most at the moment.
And something else I want to speak to you about is the lineage of Ring of Honor and some of the amazing names. I mean, you guys put out those Honor Club lists on YouTube that you see some of the people that have wrestled for Ring of Honor. I mean, Dusty Rhodes, Mick Foley, Punk, Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, some of the biggest names and the best wrestlers in the world. So when you step inside a Ring of Honor ring, do you carry that with you, or do you think about that you are wrestling for a promotion or wrestling with people that have you've been in the same ring as some of the greatest to ever do it?
To be honest, no, I never think about that. I pride myself in always trying to uphold the original idea of what Ring of Honor was founded on, and that's competition and sportsmanship. I think in a lot of ways, the company's in recent years has kind of gravitated away from it. I think wrestling as a whole has gravitated away from what wrestling really was. But then again, every company should have its own identity. And, that's what the foundation is all about, is restoring the honor that has been forgotten or taken away from the company. So I always try to just uphold those original ideas of what Ring of Honor was founded on.
And if I said to you, listen, we can go in a time machine, you now get to face someone from Ring of Honor's history, like a Ring of Honor OG in a match. Who is it?
Can I pick three or can I only pick one?
You can pick as many as you want.
Okay. Well, I think it would definitely be Doug Williams. I was really disappointed with our match coming up, and then COVID happened. Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, of course, John Walters, and Steve Corino.
Interesting. I think there's some great matches that could have been had there. We got some questions from people online, and one of them was about your mask, the iconic mask. Something I wanted to ask you was, how did it come about? And when you're traveling through an airport flying, how many times are you stopped where people looking through your bag going, what the hell is that?
Well, they have the X-ray machine, so they can see it through the bag, so they don't really take it out. They only take out things like title belts or something like that because it's metal.
What's it made out of? What's it made out of?
It's latex, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I needed. The funny thing is, I came up with the idea of the mask back in 2014, and I tried to get it made, but I couldn't find anybody that made it the way that I envisioned it. So it took me almost 5 or 6 years to find somebody to make it. I experimented with a mask similar to it. In 2015, I did one of my first trips to Mexico, and I wrestled for DTU. And they had a guy that made the mask for me because the promoter couldn't pay me for a show that I did. So I was like, look, man, you got to pay me. He was like, I'm sorry, whatever. So I was like, okay, well, you have to make me like a whole like wrestling outfit. So it was basically the prototype of what I wear now, but it was more cartoony. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. So fast forward to, I think, 2018 maybe, or 19, I found the guy that makes Drago's outfits. You know how his outfit looks more realistic. And so I went to him and I drawed something up and I said, I need you to make this. And then that was it.
So what was sort of the thinking behind it, and is there a particular story behind it or something that inspired you and made you think you wanted that mask?
I think what inspired it was the team that Chris Brooks and I created, Calamari Catch Team, CCK. So I wanted to move forward with that character, and I always said, hey man, I wanted to walk out with masks and like the cool jackets that like Chris comes out with and stuff. I always wanted to have like a whole getup, and I could never figure out the mask. So we kind of like went our separate ways there for a while, and I continued with that thought of the mask. He continued with the CCK getup and everything, and it was pretty much the idea from CCK because we did like the punk rock kind of skull stuff. So I moved forward with that idea, and that was really the origins of it.
It seems like it's very heavy as well, something you don't want to lug around in a bag.
Oh, no, it's not heavy at all. It's pretty light, actually. The only thing I'm worried about is the tentacles getting ripped through, like, carrying it around. So trying to find, like, a better case for it to, carry around.
I guess it's not the sort of thing you can find on Amazon, a case for that kind of thing.
No, it might be like a guitar case or a jump case or something. I'm gonna have to
something with a bit of like protection inside. But I just wanted to obviously thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. It's been an honor to speak to you and to speak about the issues that we spoke about, because I think it's a conversation that needs to be brought up. But before I let you go, can we do some quick fire questions?
Sure. Hopefully I don't stutter too much.
Yeah. That's all right. First one is pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No. Explanation I can give you?
Go on.
Because if you share the pizza with someone, 2 slices of the other person's pizza gets ruined by the pineapple. It's not fair.
Fair enough. I would always be a yes, but interestingly, until about 2 months ago or about a month ago, it was just myself and John Moxley that I interviewed that said yes. So people would be like, oh, who else has said yes? And I'd be like, oh, John Moxley. And they'd be like, he's a nutcase. You're trying to prove your point.
Yeah.
But a more wrestling-focused one now. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Man, that's difficult to say.
Or if you can pick three, you can pick three.
Bryan Danielson, Kuto Hidaka, and I think that's it.
Perfect. Have you got a favorite match of all time? Firstly, one that you were a part of that you came away from thinking you're really proud of, or looking back on it that you think, damn, that was a great match, or one that you accomplished a lot, or and as well a match that as a spectator, if you're ever sort of feeling down or wanting some inspiration, you'll go and watch.
The matches that if I just want to enjoy, I'd probably watch the series of matches between Nigel and Danielson. There's one where Colt Cabana and Danielson went against each other in Chicago. That one I really enjoy. Ikuto Hidaka versus Super Shisa. It's a 0-1 show. That one's very underrated and overlooked. I don't think many people, have seen that match. That's really good. But those are the matches I think. As far as myself, oddly enough, it's not a singles match. It's actually the tag match that Chris Brooks and I had with LAX in New York. That's something I'm really proud of. The way we mixed, the modern style of wrestling with story and like a lot of character. So I'm really proud of that match.
Awesome. I think it's a lot of people say a tag match because I think that they just don't want to say, a singles match where I beat this person. But I think if you said it's sort of one that you're most proud of, and have you got a singles match that you were most proud of, or are you the sort of person that always strives for more, I guess? So you don't want to particularly dwell on a match that you were particularly happy with or proud of?
It's really difficult for me because I always wanted to have those matches. Like, I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but back in like 2005, 2006, those 2 years to me were like some of the best wrestling was produced. From Dragon Gate to Ring of Honor to Pro Wrestling Noah, like some of the best matches and the reactions to matches to me came in those couple years. And I always wanted to have matches that touched fans in that way. And I feel like I just have never accomplished that. I think the closest that I've ever gotten to that vibe, that feel, was that New York match with LAX and Chris Brooks. So that's why that match is my favorite. I've never had a singles match that I think reached that level.
I mean, I was 5 or 6 at the time of 2005, so I'm going to make you feel incredibly old now. But I think, as you said, but yeah, I think as you said, if you want to touch people in that way, then that tag match was great and people should check it out. But another question I've got: any TV shows at the moment that you've been watching that are keeping you sane or keeping you from boredom?
Oh man, because of the lockdown, I've binged so many shows and it's difficult for me to go back and remember all of them. But I'm back on The Walking Dead because of the way that it came out. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if you watched it or not, but at one point, The Walking Dead would come out with like a season, but chop it in half, right?
Yeah. Like
like
a mini break and then like a half season premiere and then start again.
Okay, so like I was doing a lot of traveling when they were coming out, so I tried to keep up, but I would miss out on like the season. So I would come back on start off on season 3 and come back at season 5, and I had to go back and remember everything. So now that there's 9 seasons on Netflix, I can just go back to the beginning and binge all the way through. So that's what I'm doing now. But I think my lady and I watched. Babe, what's that show that we watched on Amazon? No, Ozarks was good, but what was the other one where the guy died? And then he got Upload. Yeah, Upload. That was really good. I thought that was really good. So we watched that one.
Do you guys ever get into arguments if someone falls asleep during a show and then you don't stop it, you just continue watching the episode?
If that happens, the person that continued the show is okay to watch it on their own from that night on. So that's our little rule. We don't argue anymore. We've kind of gotten rid of that.
Have you guys wrestled each other in the house yet? Has the boredom resorted to that?
No. We try between each other. We try not to talk about wrestling. We have a thing where we have a time of the day where we watch wrestling like once or twice a week together and talk about matches together and just explain like how we interpreted the story of the match. So we have those moments, but no like one-on-one wrestling. No.
And do you watch each other's matches, I guess, and critique it? Because I think a lot of people, you're probably going to be most honest with your partner. If she didn't like something, she'll probably tell you, yeah, that didn't work. Where I guess you kind of need that honesty.
Oh, for sure. We do that as well. But I think the people that I surround myself with now and that I talk to regularly now are a lot of the people that I, grew up in the business watching, that I can actually go to, and they'll be 100% honest with like their thoughts on the match, what they liked and what they didn't like, and what I can improve on. So I'm very blessed to have that on my side as well. So I don't have it with her, but I have it with my coworkers as well.
Awesome. And final question I've got for you. Have you got an unpopular wrestling opinion? So something you feel quite passionately about that you don't think is shared by the majority of people?
Yes, I do have it. I really hate that professional wrestling rules are now so relaxed. I believe it defeats the purpose of like presenting it as a sport.
Yeah.
I think that part of the presentation has been removed because of the rules. It helps with character development. It helps with telling match stories instead of just firecrackers, action all the time. Most people that watch sports, if you're at a bar and a guy's watching a football game or a soccer game, he's normally yelling at the referee about like a technicality missed or like something of that nature. Pro wrestling, you can't do that anymore because most of the boys in the back and most of the fans don't even know the rules of pro wrestling. So that's something that bothers me, because in my matches to tell stories, I have to utilize the rules of wrestling, and sometimes they can go over fans' heads because they're not really pushed anymore.
I completely agree. It's one of my pet pieces of wrestling, which I think a lot of people like. You like rules? I'm like, it enhances the story, and it can actually improve the wrestling side of it. So I completely agree with you there. Might be unpopular, but at least you share it with someone. So thank you very much, Jonathan. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. Before I let you go, is there anything you want to promote or plug? Have you got a pro wrestling tea store or Twitter that you want to send people to?
You can follow me on Twitter at @DJohnGresham. I have an Instagram account too at @DJonathanGresham. But for the most part, I would just like for people to take time out of their day to watch something different when it comes to professional wrestling. Don't always pay attention to the most popular guys and the most popular style of wrestling. Just take time to find an unknown, and if you like them, talk about them, push them. His company that he works for, make sure that company knows that you like the guy. Create signs if you go to different companies of your favorite wrestler and maybe your favorite underdog. Those things help. And I think that's it.
So actually, I tell you what, on that note, give the people one match that after watching this interview, you think they should go and watch.
I think they should go and watch Jeremy Wyatt versus Fred Yahai. I believe it happened for a company called Pro Wrestling Journey. I wrestled both of these guys, and I think they're two of the best technical / pure style wrestlers out there right now. So
I tell you what, I'm going to go and watch that after we wrapped up this interview. So thank you very much, John. Incredibly generous with your time, and I hope you and stay safe at this time with everything going on, and hope we see you in the ring before too long.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.